more Glastonbury morons, let's call them, that's pretty accurate. Bob Villain, they're not allowed in the US anymore. The doors have been slammed shut. And also, there's been a fatwa issued by Iran on President Donald Trump. All that, plenty more, including migrants nicked in a massive raid working for Deliveroo, Just Eat, so on and so on. Big hour coming up. Don't go anywhere. See you in a sec.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash. So make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good evening to you, I'm Ben Leo and this is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. And breaking tonight, could it be Judgment Day for BBC Director General Tim Davie? Because moments ago, a flurry of stories have suggested that he was not only at Glastonbury over the weekend, but that he may have indeed have more questions to answer. But Bob Villain, they've also had their US visa revoked, and Donald Trump's deputy assistant in the United States, Sebastian Gorka, will be joining me live in just a tick to reveal the inside story. Meanwhile, back in Blighty,
have also been real concerns about our initial proposals. We have listened carefully and we are making positive changes as a result.
Big day for the Prime Minister tomorrow. Is the government still facing a rebellion from backbenchers despite the latest embarrassing U-turn? Plus, some good news. Britain is bracing itself for sweltering heat tomorrow as temperatures are set to reach a pretty balmy 35 degrees. And one of my panel tonight has turned up wearing shorts. Can you guess who? You ain't seen nothing, sweat. And joining me on the panel this evening is GBNews contributor and comedian Leo Kearse, journalists and broadcasters Christo Foufas and Benjamin Butterworth. But first, let's get your news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Ben, thank you very much. The top stories. GB News can confirm this evening that almost 900 small boat migrants crossed the Channel today. Provisional figures showing 880 migrants crossed in at least 14 small boats throughout the day, with the last boatload arriving into Dover Harbour just after 9 p.m. Those latest arrivals take the number of migrants who've made the illegal crossing so far this year to just short of 20,000. That figure is 45% ahead of the number who'd crossed at the same point last year. A criminal investigation's been launched over performances by Bob Vylan and Kneecap at Glastonbury on Saturday, Avon and Somerset Police has said. The force said it had appointed a senior detective to investigate whether comments made by either act amounted to a criminal offence after reviewing footage. Speaking in Parliament today after the announcement, Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy called the scenes broadcast appalling and unacceptable. Bob Vylan have now had their US visas revoked ahead of a tour later on in the year. The BBC said earlier that they should have pulled the live stream of the rap duo's performance, which contained, quote, utterly unacceptable and anti-Semitic sentiments. The King has agreed to scrap the Royal train after approving its decommissioning following decades of service. Our royal correspondent Cameron Walker has more.
King Charles has decided to scrap the use of the Royal train, partly because the costs were about to spiral. It's set to be decommissioned in 2027. The Prince of Wales is said to support that decision. Now, this comes as the Palace publishes the annual Sovereign Grant Report. That is the public money used to fund the monarchy. It also includes the travel of the royal family, the official travel, including the most expensive travel of the 2024-25 financial year, which was the Australia and Samoa visit, costing more than £400,000 of public money.
And the government's U-turn on welfare cuts will cost taxpayers around £2.5 billion by 2030, the Work and Pension Secretaries told MPs today. Liz Kendall said the cost and savings of the government's revised welfare package would be confirmed by the Office for Budget Responsibility in the autumn. Thousands of people are going to be forced into poverty because of those changes to the welfare system. Number 10 saying it's broken. Those are the latest headlines for now. It is over to Ben.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening to you. Welcome to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition with me, Ben Leo. Just for tonight, Patrick's back tomorrow. Let's get straight to Tuesday's front pages, shall we? Starting with The Independent. The headline reads, Labour in chaos as rebels demand more welfare concessions. This is the big vote tomorrow. Keir Starmer facing one of his biggest challenges yet in his first year as Prime Minister. The Eye. Number 10 in final push to win over rebel MPs ahead of the welfare vote. The Daily Mail. Similar vibe. Rebel MPs are set to humiliate the Prime Minister today. Nice picture of Emma Raducanu there winning at Wimbledon today. The Daily Express. BBC boss has to act now or resign. This, of course, is the Glastonbury controversy over Bob Vylan and the IDF chants. We'll discuss this in a second, but it's been revealed tonight that Tim Davie, the Director General, was at Glastonbury over the weekend. The Daily Telegraph. BBC boss at festival for rappers' hate chant. Tim Davie made the decision on anti-Israel broadcast that left footage online all day. And The Guardian, The Star, you ain't seen nothing sweat, so if you thought it was hot today, tomorrow is meant to be even hotter. 35 degrees in some places. And I did tease at the top of the show that one of the panel tonight have come in shorts. You won't see it because they're behind the desk, but before the night is out, I will be getting them up and centre so you can see their nice pins, to say the least. The Guardian... Labour bid to woo rebels descends into chaos on the eve of the welfare vote. And is that it? The Times. NHS will prioritise UK doctors and nurses. Interesting story, which we'll also discuss. This is a 10-year plan to curb recruitment from overseas. Right, and The Sun, another good story, an exclusive, just nicked. Cops raid on migrant riders after Sun expose. So immigration cops have begun cracking down on illegal delivery drivers, such as Just Eat, Deliveroo and so on, who are working illegally in Britain. A nice picture there of workers getting nicked and taken down the cop shop. There we go. Let's get the views of my panel now. GB News contributor and comedian Leo Kearse and the journalists and broadcasters Christo Foufas and Benjamin Butterworth returns. Also with me, I'm delighted to say, is Jamie Peston, who is a Glastonbury attendee. He was a reveller this weekend, who has written a very powerful piece today about his experience at Glastonbury as a Jewish man. He's got a really sort of heartwarming, well, heart-wrenching rather is the word, story to tell, of course, in light of what's happened over the weekend with, what are they called? Bob,
yeah.
What are they called? The idiots. Right. Let's discuss that, shall we? Because the front page of The Telegraph says that BBC boss Tim Davie, the Director-General, was indeed at Glastonbury over the weekend. He was there, we understand, working because the BBC had some 900-odd producers working on Glastonbury. But Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, Leo, called Tim Davie when he was at Glastonbury and said, Tim, what the hell is going on with this Bob Vylan situation?
So Lisa Nandy was watching the BBC coverage of Glastonbury while it was being, our state broadcaster was beaming to the nation, not just this guy chanting death to the IDF, which is the Israeli military, not a sofa company. But they're also... the same guy was also chanting, I heard you want your country back, and then laughing.
That's been quite forgotten about, hasn't it?
That's been forgotten about, and that's such an insightful term to British people. And for some reason, all the wet lefty milquetoasts at Glastonbury were chanting along with it, chanting with somebody cheering for their own destruction.
Yeah, it's insane. I think the lyrics were something akin to, I hear you want your country back, ha, F that, you ain't getting it back, or something. I mean, as you said, it's been forgotten about, and that was equally, for me, as offensive. Benjamin, your thoughts? Sorry, Chris, let's go for you. Benjamin's had 2 hours on this show. Christo, in you come.
Honestly, we're sick of the sound of you. OK, so I can't get my head around, and I think that this is the issue with the BBC, and I don't know why they don't learn. Firstly, the reason a decision wouldn't have been taken is because there would have been 60 people that could have taken the decision, and they would have all been talking to each other and getting themselves in a complete spin, and no one would have made a decision. Whereas in a commercial organisation, there would have been a boss, you would have been called by that boss, and they would have said, pull the broadcast immediately, and someone would have been at the top. But secondly, how is it that I can't watch the Big Brother live feed without them cutting the sound, right? Because they have the capacity to cut the sound feed when there is going to be swearing. Had they not thought that even if it wasn't about anti-Semitism or something like that, the C word might have been dropped. The F word is dropped quite often. I don't understand how. I don't know if I believe that the BBC did not have the capacity to have something in place to say, right, we've either got to pull the feed or pull the sound, because, you know, what if someone collapses and dies during a live show? You know, you have the capacity to pull a live show off air or to pull the sound off air. I don't know why they didn't do that. I don't believe they didn't have the capacity to do that.
Well, they had the capacity to react because they put up a warning on the screen that there might be offensive language and inappropriate themes. So if they thought to warn viewers, then why is it that whoever took that decision didn't take the decision to take it off air? You know, if the Ku Klux Klan released a rap song, you wouldn't just broadcast it because they turned up at Glastonbury. And I think what we saw is akin to that kind of behaviour. Now, the only thing I'd say is that when that guy shouts Free Palestine, it looks like most of the crowd join in. When he says the IDF, the noise is a lot quieter. So if there's any comfort in this, it sounds like most people in the crowd didn't repeat it. But if people in the crowd that may be drunk and having a fantastically jolly time and take the Palestine side, even they could work out that you probably shouldn't repeat that, then how is it that people at work responsible for the BBC didn't pick up on this for 5 hours, which is how long it was on iPlayer?
It's an insane thing to see at a music festival. I went to music festivals when I was young, and they were generally a time for having fun and, you know, having a party. There were no death threats. There were no chants for, you know, particular nations to be eradicated or anything like that.
Well, one man who was there is Jamie Peston, who was sat next to me now. Jamie, thank you for coming on to Patrick Christys tonight. So you were there at the weekend. What days were you there?
I was there for a week. I went Tuesday before.
Oh, wow.
So I was well prepared.
Have you recovered yet?
I don't really have to recover because the reality is the last couple of days weren't so great.
Yeah.
Because I lost my enjoyment.
So look, as a Jewish man at Glastonbury then over the weekend, you've obviously seen we don't need to repeat what happened. You've seen what's going on. How were you feeling there? I mean, did you feel safe? How do you feel now you've left Glastonbury, had some time to digest? Just tell us how you're...
So I guess I didn't feel safe enough to speak to the press whilst I was on site yesterday.
Really?
When other news broadcasters were looking to speak to people. But I didn't feel unsafe whilst I was there, and I think it's really important to say there's, people can be quite over-dramatic about, the ravaging hordes that were running around searching for Zionists. That wasn't what happened. That's not the case. But I think hearing the conversation, I didn't know you were going to be talking necessarily about the BBC. I think the issue for me is around what is normalised and what is acceptable in mainstream culture. And I think what I've observed, it having been at Glastonbury last year, where there were many more Palestinian flags than this year, is actually no one really cares. Most of the people there don't care. They don't care about what's going on in the Middle East. They care about what's going on in the UK. And when Caroline Lucas stands up, to introduce Lewis Capaldi on the Pyramid stage with tens of thousands of people, nobody cared what she had to say. She didn't say a word that resonated with anybody. She spoke about Palestine. She spoke about nuclear disarmament.
Is that because it was Caroline Lucas?
I think it wasn't very well delivered necessarily, but also I think the majority of the people who I met were nice, kind, normal. Many of them may be watching the news now. They're not interested in what's going on, but they're there to have fun. They're there to be led. They're there to be part of what I've always known as a counterculture, and therefore if people on stage are telling you to sing things and dance to things, you're going to join in. So it's not really a surprise. It's the BBC that's the problem.
But does that take away from the sort of chillingness of what we did here? Because even though I'd say, whatever, 90%, just pluck a figure out of thin air, 90% of the festival are there to have a good time, to enjoy the time with their friends and whatever, enjoy the music. But we did still see crowds of people repeating the chant that guy on screen now was singing. So, I mean, is that not... I've been asking people over the past couple of days, how did we get here? How did we get to this point? How do we get to the point where we have pro-Palestine marches every weekend in London, pretty much, where we see placards and chants and so on and so on? How did we get to this point? What happened?
I'm delighted that you're asking those questions, because from at least my segment of the Jewish community, have been asking those questions for years, and not just since October 7th. When Jeremy Corbyn stood up at Glastonbury and they were cheering, for Jeremy Corbyn, there was a reason why they were cheering, and what he said hasn't changed. What he said then is the same as he says now. And what's happened with, the recent issues in the Labour Party and the changing political winds in the UK is that the Jewish community has been marginalised, because what was once an extreme view of the extreme left suddenly became front and centre. The plan for the party, and that's had an impact on all dialogue and all debate, because it's normalised what is not normal. And when I can't blame my friends that I made in Glastonbury for going to see these bands and for cheering, because they care about social justice. That's why they're at Glastonbury. That's why I'm at Glastonbury. I care about good things happening in the world, not bad things. And if the world, particularly the BBC, who everyone's supposed to trust, are telling you that what's right is wrong and what's wrong is right, then obviously you're going to listen. You're just misinformed. And I think for me as a Jew, therefore, walking around, I just felt like a stranger. I felt alienated. I didn't feel welcome. I didn't feel comfortable, even though it's something I've enjoyed and I would love to go back.
Well, you just answered my next question. You're going to go back to...
Absolutely not a chance. Never going back.
Never.
I'd love to go back. It's the highlight of my year.
Why wouldn't you go back?
Because why would I? I'm sure Hitler Youth rallies were quite fun, but I don't think Jews would be particularly welcome. It's really the same thing.
Even though, by your own admission tonight, you did say that the majority of people there don't go along with that kind of thing.
That's not why they're there,
but
it's happening anyway, because it's the narrative of the BBC, it's the narrative of the left wing of the Labour Party, it's the narrative of the people who founded Glastonbury in the first place, that their views haven't changed.
Yeah.
But everyone else suddenly listens, and that's what's a bit scary.
Well, that's a shame to hear. That is a shame to hear. Right, well, Jamie, look, thank you for sharing your story with us. I'm sorry what you've been through the last couple of days. Well, not even just the last couple of days, is it? It's been an increasing rhetoric and atmosphere over years, as you just said.
They say my children were born at the hospital around the corner, but I didn't feel unsafe when they were born wearing kippah outside, and I did tonight coming into your studio. So.
Well, Jamie, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Go well, and we'll catch up soon. Thank you very much. Should we look at the Times, front of the page of the Times? Another interesting story, away from Glastonbury, away from Tim Davie and the BBC. The NHS will prioritise UK doctors and nurses. So, Leo, this made me laugh, because it's a 10-year plan, which I said in the past hour, is rather funny because it's the Labour government, despite the absolutely torrid first 12 months they've had, thinking they're going to be in power maybe in the next 9 years.
Maybe they're looking ahead because they think, in 10 years' time we'll have been through several different iterations of government. The Tories will have had a go, Reform will have had a go, the Islamic Party of Britain will have had a go, and then Labour will be back in. I think it's great that they're looking to train up, native doctors. I think it's kind of criminal in a way that we're stealing doctors and nurses from nations that clearly can't afford to give them away. If you're going to, Zimbabwe or whatever, they need doctors and nurses there. We can't be poaching them. But also there's an issue with qualification fraud. We're seeing people coming from other nations, third world countries, where they've just paid somebody to sit the exam on their behalf, or the qualification from the University of Mogadishu or whatever it is isn't quite as robust.
Is there a uni in Mogadishu?
There probably is, probably funded by our taxes.
USAID or something.
I think that this is actually exactly how we should be talking. I really do. I think that this is precisely what we should be doing. The problems in this country are going to take, unfortunately, I think 10 years is actually quite ambitious, because I think the problems that we face in this country are going to take about 30 years to unpick. And it's interesting that we've got the Sun front page as well about the people who are working for Deliveroo as well, just nicked about those people, because I think they all are connected in as much as there are certain jobs, sometimes doctors, sometimes NHS jobs, care jobs, jobs that we see, like, in the hospitality industry, that we outsource. We don't see as British jobs. And that's because they're low paid. That's because we've allowed companies to exploit that low pay. That's because we've allowed high levels of immigration. That's because British people, would not want those jobs for the reasons I've just outlined. That's going to take decades to sort out. And we need a government, we need successive governments with the kahunas to do it. Now, my fear is with this is that we're going to end up with a U-turn about it, and we're going to end up increasing the number of NHS doctors from other countries, because Keir Starmer will get worried about it and decide that actually we want all doctors to be from other countries.
The number of non-UK doctors coming in has risen a fifth since 2010. So it was actually a big part of David Cameron's government was they reduced training places in this country, part of austerity, cutting costs wherever they could, and they took in more foreign-born doctors. Now, you make the joke about Somalia. Actually, the sort of unethical thing about this is that a country like Somalia will be desperate for doctors, and they don't have them because they come here for a better salary. Now, this idea was first suggested a couple of months ago, so the government's slightly recycling the announcement. But one of the points they've made is that the speciality training, so when people complete their 7 years basic training and they want to go into be a brain surgeon or something, whatever speciality of medicine, often overseas recruits have exactly the same access to those job opportunities, those promotions, if not better access than UK-trained doctors. And so what happens? Well, if you're 27, you're fantastically talented, you've worked for years, you're not earning that much money, you live in an expensive city, well, you move to Australia. So the irony of this is that we're losing UK doctors because they don't have the career ladder.
Part of the reason for that is because we are saddling them with loads of debt by not giving them scholarships to train here as well, which would sort out the wages issue.
Yeah, indeed. Some great points there, Benjamin. Leo, Christo?
Just Benjamin.
Just Benjamin. I'm going to sully it by asking you how many doctors you think were on the boats today that arrived in Britain? 900.
All of them. They were all doctors.
All architects.
Some of them engineers.
Architects, engineers.
So naughty. And
school
one
teachers.
Deliveroo driver, maybe.
Right, coming up, we'll reveal to you the towns in the UK hit hardest by Britain's benefit crisis as the government is facing a massive rebellion tomorrow, despite their embarrassing U-turns. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
What stresses you out the most?
Oh, stupid people. Yeah, stupid people. Actually, I'm convinced the world is full of stupid people.
Right, OK.
All right, so stupid people.
Why are you looking at me? Why are you looking at me?
I actually wouldn't look at you, mate. You're a smart person. But no, honestly, if you were in my life, particularly when you rely on people to do things for you and they just can't see the obvious thing to do.
Oh, no.
But you have to be very grateful that they are doing things for you.
Yeah, that's...
Ellie, for me, it depends on the mood I'm in. Because if little things happen and I'm not in the right mood, then everything drives me crazy.
Now, that is a very good point. So, micro-stresses.
Is that what it is?
But according to the Daily Mail this morning, 89% of Britons are finding the small stresses is exhausting them the most.
Yeah.
Things like being stuck in traffic.
Yes.
Hate that. The bin bag breaking.
I actually don't mind being stuck in traffic.
No, I do. I find it... Oh,
that's
okay. Great on my soul.
Unless it's late, I'm late for something. Although I was stuck for about 3 hours trying to get home yesterday.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
but you see, I don't think those are micro-stresses. I think they're major stresses.
Full-on stresses.
That's what the study says,
So listen, don't pass them off as, it's only just stuck in traffic. That's a major thing.
OK,
Yeah.
that's major stress. OK.
Yeah.
It says sometimes it triggers the same exhaustion as a single major life event. If you have lots of these in a day. So bin bag breaking is you taking it out, losing your keys.
That's a major one.
Yeah.
That's major for me.
People who walk slowly, that is so irritating. Forgetting to charge your phone overnight, forgetting to put the bins out, not being able to find an outfit.
You know what I really hate? Really, really grinds my gears?
What?
Is when I either let someone out, and when I'm in the car, I let someone out and they don't say thanks, or I stop and let them cross over and they don't go...
That's irritating.
Then I go...
Well, I tend to agree with you, Paul.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Late edition with me, Ben Leo. Just for tonight, I understand Patrick is back in the hot seat tomorrow. Welcome back to my panel, Benjamin Busworth, Christo Foufas and Leo Kearse. Christo, you wanted to talk about...
Yes, well, actually, I've got some news for you.
Go on then, come on then.
I have decided that I'm on an economy drive.
Right.
So I only got a helicopter in tonight because I'm looking to save money.
2 helicopters.
2 helicopters. I've got one in the garage at home. This is the story. I love this story. I know you spoke about it a little bit earlier, but the King, and I love the way it's written as well, on the front page of the Telegraph, he'll bid the fondest of farewells to his own royal train because he's economising, and so now he'll have 2 helicopters on standby in order to really pare back that spending in order to go anywhere. And so they'll continue to travel within the UK, sometimes on a commercial train, but in general, they'll take a helicopter everywhere.
I mean,
that is economising.
This is slightly sad. It's the ending of the royal train after 150 years. Queen Elizabeth's favourite mode of travel.
But there was an interesting stat you gave earlier when you spoke about this, and I never knew this, but per mile, the royal train is only £10 more expensive than we pay.
Well, yeah, I can believe that. I can believe that. We'll continue this in just a sec, but for the time being, in what's been dubbed a chaotic compromise by the Tory party, the government has rolled out its welfare changes in the latest of its many U-turns. Take a look.
There have also been real concerns about our initial proposals. We have listened carefully, and we are making positive changes as a result. I fully understand that even though 9 out of 10 people claiming PIP when the changes come in would be unaffected by the end of this Parliament, that this has caused deep and widespread anxiety. We will now ensure the new 4-point requirement will only apply to new claims from November 2026.
All right, well, of course, what all this misses is the extent to which disability benefits are now dominating the UK. Well, thanks to analysis from the Taxpayers Alliance, we now have a league table, of course we do, of council areas with the highest proportions of people on disability benefits. And in first place, drumroll please, is, I don't know how to pronounce this, Leo, anyone who's Welsh here?
It's in Wales. That's all you need to say.
Blaenau Gwent. Blaenau Gwent in Wales. Apologies to anyone from Blaenau Gwent in Wales.
A lot of these places are in Wales.
With 1 in 5 people there receiving personal independence payments, PIP. Well, I'm joined now by the media campaign manager of the Taxpayers Alliance, William Yarwood. William, good evening. Thanks for your company. What does this tell us, this research? It's some areas of the UK, including Blaenau Gwent in Wales, a pretty gloomy picture when it comes to claiming benefits.
Yeah, completely. Well, good evening, Ben, and thanks for having me on the show, and thanks for sharing this research. Yeah, I think if we're going to be frank, it shows a very bleak and actually quite a miserable picture for large areas of country, especially in Wales, where there are, you know, out of per 1,000 people, 221, 212, 204 people per 1,000 on PIP. I mean, how on earth is this sustainable? How on earth are these people going to get into work? What on earth are these people doing, and how do they end up in this way? And I think Labour's welfare reforms, to begin with, while they were a little bit weak, actually showed some interest in trying to solve some of these issues. But now they've watered it down to such a degree that the £5 billion that they were supposed to save, well, they're only going to be saving about half of it, because only about 2.5 billion is actually going to be followed through after they've been watered down. So yeah, I think our dashboard and our stats that we've revealed today reveal a very miserable picture, and actually one that's highly unsustainable and costly for taxpayers.
OK, what do you make, William, of the vote tomorrow? The Daily Mail are saying it is the biggest rebellion of Keir Starmer's premiership. How's it going to play out?
I think that Keir Starmer might just actually lose this, which will be a massive issue, given the fact that this is his, it's coming up to his, first 1 year in power. You know, he's supposed to be celebrating 1 year of brilliant Labour government, and actually all he's done is U-turn after U-turn and backpedal after backpedal. Because I know for a fact now that the Conservatives are not going to vote this through, because they've actually not reached the threshold in terms of what actually Kemi Badenoch and the Conservatives wanted. So I think Keir Starmer, if he faces a lot of rebellion from his backbenchers, and actually when you think about backbench rebellions, a lot of people actually come out of the woodwork at very late stages. So people come out and say, actually, no, now I've got the courage, now I've got the energy, I'm actually going to vote against this bill. He might actually lose it. But to be quite frank with you, this bill is basically pointless at this point, considering how much they've revised it. So even if it did go through, it wouldn't solve the welfare crisis that Britain is currently in.
OK, Leo Curtis has got a quick question for you, William, if you don't mind.
Yeah, why do you think so many of these places are in Wales? Surely Scotland should be the centre of the benefits grifting empires.
Well, I mean, Wales has an interesting part, considering it's actually ran by the Labour Party, and actually maybe there's an element of maybe gaming in Wales that probably isn't different in other areas of the UK, whereby Wales has quite large, desolate communities, quite remote communities, which have very little economic activity, very little growth, and very little people moving around, actually, so very people who don't actually move out of their areas. I mean, I'm from North East Wales, although my accent doesn't necessarily say I am, but I know for a fact that people back at home don't really move out of there, and there's not an absolute ton of opportunities around there. So, time to sign up on for PIP. But that's just a miserable case. I don't want that to be the case at all, Leo. I don't want that to be. I'm not thrilled to say that Wales is the region in the UK with such a high amount of people claiming PIP, but that's depressingly the case. And if there's not a focus from this government, or indeed from other parties on Wales, then this situation is only going to get worse, not going to get better.
OK, William, thank you very much. Great stuff. Thanks for the research. Yeah, as you said, it is pretty gloomy, isn't it? But we'll see how the vote pans out tomorrow. And if you're going to be around tomorrow for the vote, it's going to be drama in the Commons. Stick with GB News. We've got extensive coverage all throughout the day. Should we very briefly, before we get to Sebastian Gorka, the US Director of Counter-Terror and the Deputy Assistant to President Donald Trump, no less. He's here in just a tick. Should we talk very quickly, panel, about this very small smidge of a story on the bottom of the Telegraph tomorrow? US deal at risk over alcohol advert bans. So Keir Starmer has been warned that proposals to ban alcohol advertising risk jeopardising his trade deal with the United States. American drinks giants believe a total or partial ban would constitute a non-tariff barrier to trade, and is now an official intervention. An official intervention is now expected from Washington. Leo,
I think this is a bit silly of the US here. I mean, they say this about VAT as well. They say it's like a tariff, but it's not. And an advertising ban wouldn't be like a tariff, because British alcohol, European alcohol and American alcohol would all be subject to the advertising ban. So it's not picking one country, it's not picking one supplier and subjecting it to any unfair treatment.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that I take your point about all alcohol being banned. But what America is saying is, hang on, if you want to have no tariffs on this, well, then you need to know our product exists. And what is it? Why is the government here in the UK stopping people knowing that alcohol exists, thinking that somehow that's going to stop people drinking?
Yeah, like we've already got good reasons not to drink Bud Light. We don't need to be reminded.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And actually, I know that we might talk about this later, but there's another story just next to it as well. Restaurants might start monitoring your calories as well. So restaurants will be forced to tell the government what their customers might be eating under plans drawn up by Labour. So on the one hand, Labour is going to ban alcohol advertising. On the other hand, ban us eating too much at restaurants. Can we not think for ourselves?
Well, yeah, Wes Streeting said, he tweeted yesterday, Benjamin, that if they can save, was it 100 or 200 calories from your plate, then it's a win. It's like 100 calories is about a segment of a dairy milk bar. I mean, what's the difference going to make?
Well, it'd add up over a few weeks. I mean, what they want to do is have nudge, not nanny. That's the phrase the Health Secretary used. So trying to get you to change your behaviour rather than the state sort of dictating it. But one of the suggestions is that supermarkets would get fines if they don't increase the amount of healthy food sold. So, I guess that would put American foods out as well.
Well, I think after COVID, I've had enough of nudge units from governments. I think just,
Don't want to be nudged in any direction anymore, thank you.
Yeah.
We need less government, not more.
Yeah. Indeed. Right, coming up, Albanian burglars, 35-degree heat, or at least global warming is good for something. Oh, and Donald Trump's director of counter-terrorism, Sebastian Gorka, on banning Bob Villain from entering the United States. The name still makes me laugh, Bob Villain, just ridiculous. This is Patrick Christys tonight, only on GB News.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, it is going to be another warm and uncomfortably humid night for many places towards the southeast, but we do have some fresher air starting to make its way in. The fresher air is behind a frontal system which is lingering across northern and western parts at the moment. That's already brought a fair amount of rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland today, and we're going to see some more rain for a little while yet, but the front is going to ease, so that rain breaking up as it edges into parts of northern England overnight. Away from the band of rain towards the southeast, lots of dry weather, some clear skies, but it is going to be warm, it's going to be humid, some places staying above 20 Celsius, so a difficult night for sleeping for some. Meanwhile, towards the northwest, like I said, there's some fresher air coming in, so it's actually going to be a bit cooler here first thing on Tuesday morning, and quite bright and sunny across parts of northern and western Scotland, also across Northern Ireland too. For eastern and southern Scotland, and also across parts of northern England into northern and western Wales, a bit more cloud around, could be some outbreaks of rain coming and going as well, but across the rest of England and Wales, a fine start to the day. Yes, it is going to be warm first thing, but there will also be plenty of sunshine on offer as well. As we go through the day, lots of sunshine continuing, particularly towards the southeast, plenty of sunshine here, and with that hot air, we're going to see temperatures rising, perhaps even higher than today, 35, 36 Celsius, not out of the question. A bit fresher towards the north and west, and watch out for some heavy showery bursts developing, particularly across parts of northern England and southern Scotland. Some further showery rain across the eastern parts as we go through into Wednesday, even some showery bursts pushing into parts of the southeast, and a few scattered showers coming in from the west northwest later as well. But in between those zones, another largely fine day for many on Wednesday, but a markedly fresher feel for many as some cooler air starts to make its way in, with some more changeable weather later this week.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain. He can say whatever he wants. A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight, late edition with me, Ben Leo. Well, the Glastonbury controversies continue, and earlier today, the Trump administration in the US took the decision to revoke punk duo Bob Vylan's visas following the performance. Well, I'm delighted to be joined now by the Deputy Assistant to President Trump and the US Director of National Security, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Thank you so much for your company this evening. Really appreciate it. First of all, could we start, please, Dr. Gorka, with the visa being revoked for these two idiots who performed at Glastonbury over the weekend? How did that come around, and why did you do it?
Why? Because, shockingly, Ben, the US government gets to decide who we allow into America. That is the responsibility of the man elected by 77 million Americans, my boss, President Trump, and beneath him, actually my immediate boss, the acting secretary, the acting national security advisor, dual-hatted as the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. So, yeah, if you're going to spout genocidal hatred, death to one of our closest partners in the Middle East that is facing an existential threat. Guess what, Bobby? You don't get to come to America. So weird, but that's how we do it here in America. If you are a genocidal, pro-Hamas, pro-jihadi, we're not going to let you in the country.
I know. How controversial that a country looks after its own people and its own interests. I mean, a bit of a far-out idea these days, isn't it? But in terms of what these guys said, Bob Vylan, and the chants they were leading, I spoke to Charlie Kirk a few weeks ago, particularly about the Lucy Connolly situation, and he was saying that her tweet in the US wouldn't have reached the threshold for incitement. Would that be the same situation with Bob Vylan had they done what they did in the United States?
Well, look, Charlie Kirk is not an attorney, and neither am I. Charlie's a good friend of mine. So there are certain requirements with regards to imminency and threats against specific individuals or groups. I think that pretty much was met by this person. And on top of that, this isn't a U.S. citizen who enjoys the protections of the U.S. Constitution and the First Amendment rights. He's a foreigner who wants to come here and make money. And I'm sorry, if you are promoting jihadist chants from a stage at Glastonbury, we are not going to let you into this country. So, period, end of story. It's really quite that simple. If you're on the side of those that murdered 1,200 Jews, men, women, and children, the greatest loss of life since the end of the Shoah, since the end of the Holocaust in 1945, I'm sorry, you are not fit for polite company, and as such, you will be denied a visa to enter this country. It's not complicated. It's really just another aspect of America First. It's why we had 0 illegal crossings across the border the last month, because finally we have sovereignty. Just like Brexit, America is sovereign again, as the UK was when they decided to leave the EU.
Well, look, that's a great achievement. And look, I'm a proud Brit, but is there anything that your administration could do to help us with our own situation on the southern border?
It's very simple. You know, it's being... You can't have a nation if you don't have borders, if you don't have national sovereignty. It's just common sense. You do not exist as a nation if you don't police your borders. So I'm not going to give the British government advice. I am very close to our CT partners in the Home Office, in the FCDO. We work very closely with our British colleagues. This is a political decision by the people in 10 Downing Street. This is a political decision by the parties that vie for preeminence to govern the nation. But it doesn't matter whether you're Vanuatu, Togo, or the UK, if you don't exercise sovereignty over your territory, and Leo, your guest, my good friend, knows this very well, you cease to function as a country. It's that simple.
Yeah, unfortunately, you are indeed very correct. I'm sad to say. Can I ask you, please, about this this fatwa on President Trump from the Iranians? I mean, the Ayatollahs have been running riot for years. Indeed, we've had our own problems with Iranians over this side of the pond. We've had people arrested in Cyprus for plotting attacks on RAF bases. We've had the plot to blow up the Israeli embassy in Kensington, all sorts of nonsense. But now they've issued a fatwa on President Trump. Tell us about that, would you please?
Yeah, so I'd be cautious here with regards to those who are maybe exploiting this for the purposes of clickbait. This is not the supreme leader, Khamenei. These are two grand ayatollahs who are talking about a response against President Trump should there be an attempt against the life of the supreme leader of that Islamo-fascist regime. So you need to really know the details. You need to read the translations, or you need to speak Persian. At the end of the day, even if you try to split those hairs, the bottom line is Iran is the largest state sponsor of terrorism, but with our beautiful Spirit B-2 bombers, we sent a very clear message 300 meters down to their nuclear facilities. As a result, we have a cessation of hostilities. So I think this is just rusty saber rattling, and it would be very unwise of those in the Islamo-fascist regime to do otherwise.
Okay, just before I let you go, Dr. Gorka, I will say the B-2 bombers, the facts that, as far as I could tell, correct me if I'm wrong, but the facts that the United States, talking about America first, the facts that the United States didn't bother consulting the UK, the European Union, NATO, the UN, getting reviews and international lawyers involved and so on, you just got on with it. You dealt with what you had to deal with for the sake of, first of all, your country and indeed, indirectly, the rest of the world. It was to be admired. And I know I get a lot of stick for saying that, but yeah, I needed to say it.
You're only getting stick from all the right places, my friend. And as we say in the White House, you're only taking flack when you're over the target. What President Trump did with Pete Hegseth, with our B-2 pilots, with the incredible work of our submarines that also launched rockets against those sites. It's like a former president once said, walk softly, carry a big stick. President Trump walks softly and deploys B-2 bombers and nuclear submarines when it is in our national interest. That's called MAGA, and that's called America First.
Yep, America's back, baby. Thank you very much, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. I really appreciate it. Have a good evening. Right, coming up. Do you want to say anything, Benjamin? You look a bit stony face there.
No, I'm just engrossed in the show.
Oh, OK. Engrossed in the MAGA loving. Shameless, I don't care. Right, coming up, we'll look into some inside stories, which include a UK heatwave, which shows no sign of going away. And I did tease at the top of the show that one of the panel has come in shorts tonight. I will be getting them front and centre, so you can check out their delightful pins.
You were going to tease that one of us was an Albanian burglar.
Well, one of you is also an Albanian burglar. A separate Albanian burglar has 50 convictions for burgling properties all across the UK. He's been allowed to stay in Great Britain by an immigration judge. Of course he has. Back in a tick.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Temperatures remain above average across much of Europe over the next few days. Plenty of sunshine to come as well, but sunshine's not everywhere. Cloudier skies for parts of Madeira down into the Canary Islands. 1 or 2 light showers are possible, but much of the Mediterranean will be sunny, though some thunderstorms possible across the Alps on Tuesday afternoon. 1 or 2 showers for eastern Greece into Turkey, but otherwise plenty of hot sunshine, and there's very little change over the next few days. Temperatures above average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition with me, Ben Leo, and I'm delighted to still be joined by my panel. No one's gone home yet. No one's been kicked off. GB News contributor and comedian Leo Kearse and journalists and broadcasters Christo Fufas and Benjamin Butterworth.
Is there a risk you'd throw us off?
Potentially.
Oh, OK.
Depends what... I mean, Benjamin's at the highest risk of being thrown off, but he's relatively sensible these days.
That's why I daren't say anything after Sebastian Gorka.
Well, no. What was your problem with you? You were stony-faced after that interview.
I was literally just listening. I know most people sat next to you don't listen, but I was.
Yeah, right.
I thought he was amazing. I thought, again, I know it was a bit of a love-in, but imagine having like a prime minister or a president that says, sorry, you just can't come into this country because we don't like what you've done.
Yeah, imagine having a president or a prime minister that actually does the things they say they're going to do. Like Keir Starmer's like, we're going to stop the boats. No, we're going to have way more boats.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I do have an admiration for America, regardless of the government, but particularly President Trump. Look, just get stuff done, you know. If we had a prime minister here who was in the mould of Donald Trump, the boats would have been stopped years ago. Let's be honest about it. Anyway, let's look at the Daily Mail, because was it hot enough for you today? Because temperatures are set to hike up again tomorrow, another notch, with some areas of the UK hitting a sweltering 35 degrees. Bring it on, I say. An amber health alert has been issued, of course, covering London, the East Midlands and large parts of the south of England in what's been dubbed a killer heatwave. But something that caught my eye today, the Lib Dems called for the government to convene a Cobra meeting to discuss the weather. Give me a break. Is this all just a bit of a overreaction, Leo?
Yeah, I mean, a Cobra meeting for the weather. I know this is Britain, and if you have the wrong kind of leaves on a train line, the trains can't run. And if it goes above, 30 degrees, we all melt and we all die. But, yeah, Cobra meetings, particularly when there are surely more severe threats facing the nation. When we've got completely porous borders and we've got Ayatollahs saying, we should have worldwide Muslims rise up against our enemies in the West. Surely we should maybe have a Cobra meeting about that instead of a bit of sunshine.
I mean, for lots of people, this is serious, right?
Because stop it.
Each year about 2,000 people in the UK die due to the heat.
But the rest of us have a nice summer.
Many of those will be vulnerable people, will be elderly people. Those will be the most at risk to this. And our homes aren't built. We don't have air conditioning. We're not built for the heat that we have to deal with.
And now you can throw him off. Because, I mean, why can't we have anything nice? Why can't it just be...
Is 35 degrees nice?
Yes. Killer. Why does it have to be killer? Why does it have to be a killer?
It kills 2,000 people.
Well, I'm sorry, drink some water. Don't go out in the sunshine.
Peanuts kill more. Are you going to ban peanuts or have Cobra meetings for...
But you can stop yourself consuming peanuts. That one's straightforward. The extreme heat that we're facing is difficult.
Yeah, but stupid people don't drink water.
Britain isn't meant to be this hot. It isn't. 10 days ago, when I left the Middle East, it was 29 degrees in Jordan and 32 degrees in London.
Do you know what you can do? You can do what Leo Kearse has done. Come on, Leo, it's just time.
I thought you were going to say go back to the Middle East.
You can don a pair of shorts in the centre of the studio. There we go.
I'm still sweating.
Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition exclusive. If you're feeling hot, Just whack on some shorts. Tell us, Leo, why did you come in shorts?
I look like a dad at Butlins. I came in shorts because it's very warm and I'm Scottish. I mean, if I was allowed, I would have come in a Borat posing pouch. And I thought, under the desk, nobody's going to notice. I didn't know I was going to be paraded.
You look like you should be on some sort of U-Tree document somewhere.
Yeah, what, as a victim? Can I sit down now?
Do you feel like you're being objectified?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Sorry,
Do you
mate.
like quite enjoying it?
Normally Leo charges for that online on OnlyFans, so you've got a bit of a bargain
Sign
tonight.
up to my OnlyFans.
OK, one more story, I think. There's a situation with an Albanian burglar. He's prolific, 50 convictions for burglary across the UK. He's been allowed to stay in Britain because a judge has ruled that his offending wasn't extreme enough to provoke public revulsion. So the guy's name is Zenel Beshi. He was in jail for 6 years in Italy for robbery and theft, of course he was, and he failed to disclose his convictions after arriving in Britain. Home Office officials argued that Beshi posed a genuine, present and sufficiently serious threat to the UK and should be deported, obviously. But the judge in the case said his crimes were not of the very extreme type.
I mean, so what? Would it be 51 burglaries, 55, 60, 70? When do the burglaries become extreme enough? I don't understand.
Yeah,
it's exhausting.
And burglary is an incredibly traumatic crime to be a victim of. Somebody's gone through your private stuff, stolen your stuff. It's incredibly traumatic for people who suffer.
Just don't do 51. You can do 50 and it's fine. You can stay.
So he did these 6 years in prison in Italy, so the burglaries weren't in the UK. But the problem is he didn't tell British authorities when he got here that he was a long-term convicted criminal. Exactly. So the lesson this sends to anyone else that fancies a trip to Britain is, well, if you've committed your crimes, just don't tell them, and then in hindsight they'll say it's OK. Now, for context, it was the Home Office trying to get rid of him, so, you know, it was the government who said he should go home. But clearly there's a problem with the laws. What should actually happen is say you weren't eligible for your right to stay here in the first place, not a question of revoking it.
You know, what they should do is they should get like some sort of computer system that has some sort of like worldwide connection that means that they could look these things up when someone wants to come to a country, maybe.
Who knows?
We've thought of inventing something like that.
We've got a real problem with activist judges who are far too lenient. I think they ideologically want to fill the country with ne'er-do-wells as a way to sort of bring about global communism. So
yeah, we need an investigation into these. I'm being absolutely serious. These activist judges, you know, they are. The Daily Mail the other year called them the enemy of the people. I won't go that far just yet, but there's big questions to answer. Right, let's have one last whiz through of the papers tomorrow. This is the front page of The Independent. Labour in chaos as rebels demand more welfare concessions. The Eye, number 10 in final push to win over rebel MPs ahead of the welfare vote. That's coming tomorrow. The Mail, rebel MPs are set to humiliate the Prime Minister today in his biggest challenge today. The Express, BBC boss has to act now or resign. Will Tim Davie fall on his sword? The Telegraph, similar vibe. BBC boss at festival for rappers hate chant. The Daily Star, you ain't seen nothing, sweat. Get the pun. 35 degrees tomorrow. Just don some shorts like Leo Kearse. The Guardian, Labour bid to woo rebels descends into chaos on eve of welfare vote. The Times, the NHS will prioritise UK doctors and nurses. And The Sun, did somebody say just nix? Cops raid on migrant riders after Sun expose. Thank you for your company tonight. Really appreciate it. Thanks to my panel, Benjamin, Christo, Leo. That's all for now. I'm back Friday. And Patrick, most importantly, we'll be back tomorrow from 9 p.m. Good night. Sweet dreams.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, it is going to be another warm and uncomfortably humid night for many places towards the southeast, but we do have some fresher air starting to make its way in. The fresher air is behind a frontal system which is lingering across northern and western parts at the moment. That's already brought a fair amount of rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland today, and we're going to see some more rain for a little while yet, but the front is going to ease, so that rain breaking up as it edges into parts of northern England overnight. Away from the band of rain towards the southeast, lots of dry weather, some clear skies, but it is going to be warm, it's going to be humid, some places staying above 20 Celsius, so a difficult night for sleeping for some. Meanwhile, towards the northwest, like I said, there's some fresher air coming in, so it's actually going to be a bit cooler here first thing on Tuesday morning, and quite bright and sunny across parts of northern and western Scotland, also across Northern Ireland too. For eastern and southern Scotland, and also across parts of northern northern England into northern and western Wales. A bit more cloud around, could be some outbreaks of rain coming and going as well. But across the rest of England and Wales, a fine start to the day. Yes, it is going to be warm first thing, but there will also be plenty of sunshine on offer as well. As we go through the day, lots